No, no.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how it all plays itself out over the next couple years.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's all going to move pretty damn fast. So it seems.
It
That's what
will.
Dan and I were talking about before you got on, Jeff. Is like this speed in which AI is getting more
Yeah.
sophisticated. Yeah.
Yeah, it just compounds day by day.
It's a snowball that's coming down the hill very fast, and it's growing very large very quickly. And it's I don't know how we one stop it, and we'll never be able to push it back up the hill. But we just have to slow it down at least as best we can.
But the whole thing
Right.
too, I mean, it's not just in the hands of one person. It's in the hands of, it can quickly be in the hands of nefarious actors, across different countries, and what are they going to use it for? And then you've got, what's the guy? There's that guy that's given all the warnings, but then at the same time he wants to set it up where you have to have a license to operate any type of AI. I shouldn't say operate, but I guess at least have your own type of AI system.
Yeah,
And
we have
on
some in our
the surface,
software.
yeah, on the surface level, that seems to make sense. But at the same time, it's like, all right, well now you're going to say, okay, well these people can have AI, but these people can't. So that alone could be
Yeah,
a dangerous proposal as well.
at that point in time, it's probably going to the highest bidder, whoever's got enough cash to do what they want to do with it.
Yeah, and what's the motives behind those people? What kind of people are they? So I
Absolutely.
it just all seems dangerous to me. But I really don't think at this point there's any stopping it.
No, it's just how do you slow it down and or control it to understand whether what you're getting your feet into.
Yeah,
Because the question is, I think some people don't truly understand what when they say AI, what it really is.
No.
And I mean, again, we have something in our software for picture recognition. It recognizes if it's a car or not. Okay, but there's that sounds very benign, but there are some other pieces of AI out there that are not.
yeah, yeah.
It's the ones that they're coding to be more
Biased.
human-esque, yeah, sentient sounding. Um, that they're programming some things into it. But 3 seconds, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Did you just to continue on that topic real quick? Did you see the news around the young lady that I guess they tracked? I guess she sort of uploaded all of her data and information into an AI, so you could have an AI bot that mimics her personality, the way she talks, types, writes, all that good stuff, and you can date her through this AI system. You can date her, and she went live with that and made $70,000 in the first couple days. She's some big TikTok influencer. I don't know
So
who she is. It's
you're
just
not even
reading the
dating. You're not
article.
even dating her. You're dating her AI self.
Correct.
Holy
Yep. And
moly!
it's a dollar per minute, I guess, whenever you're on the chat with her. So you can chat with this particular woman, AI version of her, for a dollar
Okay.
a minute, $70,000 first few days. I mean, it's
Holy
pretty.
moly!
I mean, pretty innovative. Good for her for coming up with such an idea. But also at the
Agreed.
same time, pretty
A little
sick
scary. A
to
little
know that there's
scary.
some simps out there that are willing to spend money to chat with an AI version of some
You're not
chick.
even chatting with her. You're not even chatting. I mean, if you're talking to a real person, okay, maybe I don't get it. But if you're talking with an AI version of a real person, that's really confusing. To each their own, right? Do not judge.
Hmm.
Yeah. No, we're still allowed to judge.
Well, apparently there's an AI that potentially could replace the CEO. So,
Well, okay. Well, it's good talking to you guys, and we'll
yep.
bring that person on now. And I'm going to leave. And
Have a
you
great
know,
weekend.
Yeah. So it apparently frees up the CEO because the CEO is typically doing high level views of the business, and
Hmm.
so it's able to go in and look inside of CRMs and ERPs, DMS for car dealerships, and all that kind of stuff, and be able to bubble up the areas that need attention, and then even communicate out to the person that's responsible for those areas and say, hey, look, this is a red flag. You need to take care of it. So the goal is to not replace the CEO, but allow the CEO to do things like what you're doing right now, Dan.
Hmm.
This is a little bit like, I don't know if you guys have kids or watch the movie Wall-E.
Oh yeah.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna be riding in motorized scooters at 450 pounds. Everyone's drinking Slurpees. Why? This is what it sounds like to me. I'm a little nervous already because that's kind of scary. I'm a nervous guy when stuff like that comes up. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I remember watching that for the first time. I was like, oh, that could easily be our future. I feel like we're already halfway there for most of us.
Yeah, we just need
Very
a
true.
company called Buy Large, or is it Buy Large? What's the company?
Something
Yeah,
like that. It's
yeah,
been so long. My girls are so old now, and I haven't seen that movie in so long. But I just remember that very clearly.
Yep. I
yep.
think that was a strong meme at the time as well.
Yeah.
So many memes in that movie.
Ugh, so
Well,
funny.
Dan, welcome back to Refresh Friday.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Welcome.
And we were last you were on, and even when your brother was on, we were talking about problems at the port. And I think we're still going to be talking about problems at the port.
Yeah.
It's
Has anything
actually
changed?
no, it's actually going the wrong direction. Unfortunately, with
Mm.
the chip shortage, obviously starting to come out of that, we're starting to see, and the manufacturers and the dealers are starting to see more inventory come in from the manufacturers because the chips are starting to come in a little bit, at a greater volume. The biggest, issue is some of the OEMs have said, look, we're not going to flood your car dealers with 200 and 300 cars like we used to. It's going to be more kind of just in time, inventory. They want to keep it very lean, which the dealers don't seem to mind too much, because obviously the floor planning, there's less cost to them, as you guys all know. But the biggest thing is what we're seeing now is most of these cars that are coming in are sold. The sold inventory that
Mhm.
have been ordered during the chip shortage or in the middle of it, at the end of it, and what has happened with the traditional logistics side of it is getting the cars out of the port and out of the railheads to the dealers. It's been traditionally an asset based model where they've made long term contracts with these asset based carriers, and they're bidding hundreds of lanes when they only really want, for lack of a better word, the cherry lanes, and they're not getting the full 7, 8, 9 car loads anymore. They're getting the twos and threes, which are not economically feasible for them. With the new DOT regulations as well, they're limiting the weight the car carriers can handle.
Can you
And
explain that a little bit, Dan? I'm not
Yeah. I'm
familiar
not familiar
personally
with
with the
that.
DOT regulations that have changed.
so I believe it starts this July. I don't have the exact date. They've limited the amount of weight like a 9 car or an 8 car carrier could carry.
Hmm.
And basically, that's going to take an 8 car carrier maybe down to a 6 car carrier. It could even be a 5 car carrier when you start getting into the electric vehicles because of the weight of the battery.
Hmm.
So it's limiting the weight because it wants to limit the wear and tear on the roads and all the different corresponding things that go with the heavyweight vehicles. So they want to reduce that. So that even makes the port moves and the ramp moves or the railhead moves harder because the asset based carriers want 8 cars to go into one spot or very close to it. And now it's two and three. Um, we've seen over the last, we've been moving vehicles for an OEM from railheads as well as from ports. And what we see is, we are kind of the backstop. We've taken over the 1, 2, and 3 car loads that the contract carriers don't want. And we understand why they don't want them. It's hard. It's hard for them economically. And so we've been taking over them and moving the cars. But for the OEMs, it's a struggle because they don't recognize revenue until it leaves one of their facilities, either the railhead or the OEMs. And for the dealers, they're frustrated because their inventory, is right there. Some of them drive past the holding lots every day, and they can see their cars that they can sell to a customer, and they can't go get them.
Yeah. What's the whole purpose of this changing of the DOT? You mentioned roads wear and tear, but that doesn't seem to make too much sense to me.
I mean,
Seems
I
we
don't really
spent
have the whole
100 billion or so on something else that would have gone nicely to some road systems, but
I don't really know the whole full story. I just it has come out to us. We obviously see it coming. I wonder if some of it has to do, I think, with obviously the infrastructure that we have in place. Number one, and the concern of the weight of the new vehicles. I mean, the electric vehicles. I mean, I'm sure you guys are familiar. There are a lot of car dealers that have to replace lifts because the electric vehicles will not fit on a stand. Will not the standard lift in a service facility will not hold an electric vehicle because of the
Mm-hmm.
weight. So there's a lot of concern with that. Um, and so I think the DOT decided to open up and shift it around a little bit.
Huh.
it's so yeah, this is another one where
Yeah, that doesn't sound
government
efficient at
creates
all.
problems, government tries to solve problems and creates more
Well,
problems.
I mean, the chip shortage caused such a hairy mess with vehicles coming in and dealers having no inventory, and now that it's opening back up, rightfully, and smart, the OEMs and the and the dealers have got together and said, look, instead of shipping me 300 cars, give me 70, and we'll order them. And they wanted to kind of do that justice, but even then, that makes it harder for the asset-based carriers to have that come along and are able to carry them from point A to point B because the economics don't work.
And they want us to have more EVs on the road.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation that we could have another day about the infrastructure that's going to happen there. Because I mean, I heard a stat that someone said if everyone plugged their EV in right now, the whole grid would crash. I don't know if you've ever heard
Mm-hmm.
that,
Oh yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's again, and I mean,
And
I live a little remotely sometimes, so if I'm driving somewhere, I don't want to have to try to figure out my waypoints along the way going from point A to point B to be able to charge.
Yeah. Me either.
yeah,
But
there's a lot to
there's a
unpack
lot to
around
chew
that.
on there.
And there's so many things that you don't see on the surface. Like I had never considered that the EV was a heavier vehicle and weighing on the transport, like,
The
or even the
batteries are,
lift.
yeah, I mean, the
That
battery, again, the EVs are great. I mean, there's obviously, I mean, I don't have an EV, but I know a lot of people who do, and they obviously have tremendous benefit, not only to the environment, but they're heavy. The batteries in those things are unbelievably heavy.
Well, we had Matt on last week, and he was showing us a video of what it takes because they were doing their first battery swap, and they had to
borrow a
find.
forklift.
Yeah, they had to borrow a forklift that was capable enough of lifting that battery. Yeah,
I mean, what does that thing weigh? 400 or 500 pounds, probably.
Oh, more than that. The one
1,000.
that the one they were
Four.
doing in this particular case was more than that. They think
Yeah.
it was 1,200 pounds or something.
I
Yeah,
mean,
we looked
think
it
about
up.
the normal
On
battery.
average, it was 1,700 pounds.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. The
we've all
average
changed
EV
the
battery.
normal battery, right? We've all picked that thing up with one hand. Yeah, it weighs a little bit, but you're out in and
But they're
out.
still heavy.
Yeah, you
Imagine
don't
like
need a
50 of
forklift,
those together.
right? So the rules are changing, which makes it hard for the ports and the railheads, to get these vehicles out and about to their clients, so they can recognize revenue, and then the dealers can get them sold to the public. So it's a struggle. The long term contracts that these asset based carriers sign are 3 years. I mean, or sometimes longer. Think about what gas was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you're signing a contract hoping that gas doesn't go up. If gas goes up, which it did, I mean, think about this time last year or 18 months ago, gas was twice, double. How do they run? How do they actually do what they need to do and be profitable? It's not the asset-based carrier's fault. It's just the way the system works, and it's very hard to get things done. And it's hard for these asset-based carriers to continue to do it. They need help. Obviously the OEMs need help and the dealers need help. It's a you know the one thing I think everyone forgets is this is an ecosystem that we all play in. We all live in this ecosystem. The dealers need the drivers need the dealers, everyone needs the OEM. Like they all need each other to survive. And they all play with each other. They have to play with each other nicely, and they have to be able to work together because if one goes away, the whole system goes away. And the ecosystem is so important for us, to build and to figure out a way to not only build it but make it stronger, make it more efficient, and make it fair to everyone who's in that system because everyone's got to live
Hmm.
and play there.
You just reminded me there's another component, that it's insurance. Everyone needs insurance, right? And your asset based carriers, I assume, has some pretty significant insurance. And this past 2 years, it might have been the first time and one of the insurance carriers told me the other day, it was the first time they lost money in nearly 100 years. And what's happening with the insurance carriers right now is it's very expensive to do replacement and repair, and it's extremely expensive on the rentals because the supply line's choked, and the customers having to stay in the rental car so much longer.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
then there's also, I think Drew Ament was talking about more regulation. Well, the states themselves have been coming down on different things that are affecting the insurance carriers as well. I know that California, in particular, very difficult. Michigan, um, even Florida. There's some
There's really
things.
only one big there's only really one big progressive is one. I mean, 95% of our policies for our transporters at AutoSled are progressive. A lot of people don't want to underwrite it. It's just too. They don't understand it. It's too hard. You talked about the supply chain. A friend of ours has a car that was severely damaged. Could be total. Could be fixed. He took it to a body shop, and the guy said, you might as well just go get rid of the car because he said you're going to leave it here and it's going to be here for 8 to 10 months to get parts
Wow.
because they can't get parts. So how do
Hmm.
you fix a car if you don't have the parts to it? So you know it makes this thing very difficult to handle. And the rental cars, you're right. People are staying in rental cars longer. I don't know if you guys have rented a car lately because of the supply chains, which we got to remember the OEMs sell the rental car companies, so it's the same problem. We know we move for some OEMs now. Some of these are not going to dealerships; they're going to the rental car locations of the world, but because they can't get them there, it's still got to get there. The logistics of it aren't working because it's hard. So they can't replace their old cars or add to their existing inventory.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So there's predictions that the supply of new vehicles is going to be a lot stronger in Q4. Is that
Um,
something you all are seeing or hearing?
we're seeing definitely more now come out. We're seeing more of the new cars start to come out. We're transporting more new cars than we did before outside of the OEM work that we do. From dealer to dealer, dealer swaps or direct to customers. Um, I think it's probably going to be more like Q2 of next year. And talking to some of our bigger dealer groups that we work with, and those guys who are talking with the OEMs on a regular basis, they're starting to see it now. It's starting to open the faucet, but again, they're so far behind. And to get caught back up, they have to get rid of all the cars that have been ordered, right? So yes, they're going to make new cars, but they're already sold. They're not going to hit the lot and be quote inventory. They're going to be sold inventory. So they're going to go to the back of the lot that no one can actually touch. There's some models out there that have come out. To give an example, the Bronco, the Grand Wagoneer, right? Those are some new models that people have ordered and had on order for over a year. So those things are getting dropped off in a truck, to a dealership, and they're already gone. I mean, they're not available for UI or any of us to go in and buy them. They're already sold. So a
Hmm.
dealer, I think inventory levels will never be truly normal again with the 300 and 400 that some dealers used to carry. It'll be lower, but the opportunity to have vehicles for sale at a reasonable level is going to take probably another 12 months.
Okay.
So, which has kept the used car market strong, and good and
Mhm.
bad, right? It's great. The used car market's on fire. The values are high, but again, for the OEMs, that doesn't solve their problems because everything starts with a new car. Think about it. You have no used cars without new cars. It all starts there. That's the beginning of the food chain.
Right.
Hmm.
Yep. Hmm. So when you're talking to some of these people about their long term contracts, they what are they saying? Are they saying, I wish this model would change, or
We don't talk too much of the long term, the contract carriers, but we've had conversations with some of the OEMs who have them, and what they see is what the OEMs see is that these guys are signing these long term contracts, and again, if there's 200 lanes coming out of a port or a railhead, they really only want 75 of them. They don't want they don't want to go to certain locations because it's just out of the way. They want what they want the prime steak. They don't want they don't want the flank steak or the bad cut, the rump roast. They want the fillet, right? And what the OEMs have started to realize is it's taking too long, number one, to get their B and C and D, let's say, routes out to their consumers. Number one. Number two, the contract carriers don't want to do that. Understandably, it's not dollar and cents wise. And the longer it sits there, the less revenue they can recognize because they don't, like I said, they don't recognize revenue until it leaves their port and or railhead. So, what the OEMs have started to realize is there's other opportunities with non-contract carriers to get these things moving at a much faster speed. And it's hard for them because they've done this so long the same way. But some of the ones we deal with who have been forward thinking, it's not just about the dollars, it's about the speed. Because as we all know, coming from the automobile business, the longer something sits on your lot, it doesn't get better. It only gets worse. So you want to get it off your lot as fast as possible, whether you're an OEM or you're a dealer, because it's not going to gain value; it only loses value. So these guys have started to weigh in. The OEMs have started to weigh in and realize that it's, you know, yeah, the dollar and cents are important always because it trickles down to the end consumer, but it's also about the speed.
well, speaking of speed, let's I'm very curious. So if I'm a general manager and I'm driving past a railhead or a port, and I can see, all right, I can see the cars just sitting there. I know because I'm looking in my system that two or three of those are mine. I just know it.
Yep.
So what would I do at this point? Would I call AutoSled?
You can't because the OEM will not. So, technically, the OEM doesn't own that car. It's owned by a tendering company, whether it's from the railhead or from a port. They own it, and they work together with the OEMs. So, what you'd have to do is you basically have to call your rep and say, like, I know my car's there. Is there any way to help? And all they're going to do is, we'll get it to you as soon as possible. It's really, for us, we've gotten to key decision makers within OEMs and said, look, guys, are you having issues moving cars? And the ones we're dealing with have said yes. We have these, for lack of a better word, they have the ugly ducklings. They have the bad lanes, the ones that no one wants to move, are the ones and twos. That's what we do. We handle those ones and twos. I mean, there's a couple OEMs we're working for that we're the backstop. They don't even go to, we get tendered those one and two cars in the bad lanes that the contract carriers don't want. What's good for the dealers is it gets their cars to them faster because all they care about is speed, right? We've talked with some other OEMs about doing some pilots where we could pilot if a dealer wants to have the option to get the car, they could do that. We have some OEMs who are chewing on that with a couple of dealers in some key markets to be able to say, okay, we'll credit you back X dollars if you're going to pay. If it's going to cost you $200 to get the car, we'll credit you back 100. But you can get your own carriers to come get it. So we're working with some OEMs to maybe kick that around with some pilots on dealers because the dealers are like, for $100 extra or 75 extra bucks, I want my car 2 days. 2 days earlier because the floor plan, and I could sell it because I have no inventory. So there's a lot of, unfortunately, dealers don't have a lot of pushback to give out to the OEMs.
So, if I'm that GM in that situation, would it help your cause if I were telling my rep that there's companies like AutoSled out there who can help solve this problem and just getting the name recognition rolling through the ranks?
It does. I mean, again, I think it's important because we got into an OEM for that situation. We had some friends who are dealers, and they went to their rep, and that got us from the district guy to the regional guy to a national guy to have a conversation with, and how we can help them and how we can, make your business a little stronger and please your end clients, which, ultimately are the dealers, right? And so we do that, and we're working with a lot of these dealers already, so they already kind of know us. They know that we can get their used cars to them from the port, or from the auctions, or to the auctions, and we can get them to the clients, or back, et cetera, depending on what they need. So they're already familiar with us. It's just, how do you get? Unfortunately, the OEMs, they're slow moving. It's a big ship, right? I mean, if you start thinking of an OEM, it's Titanic times 10, and turning that thing's going to take a moment.
Yep. So you heard it, everyone. Start saying things like, "There's auto sleds out there that can move these, handful of cars that the regular carriers don't want to do."
Yeah, it's a struggle for some of the regular carriers. Understandably, it's not a knock on them. Those guys, the asset based carriers, all the transporters, those guys work hard. I mean, it's tough to be out there doing stuff and be out in the cold and the rain, but it's, how do you? It can't be a one size fits all, because it doesn't work like that anymore.
Right. Hmm. So, and do you mind disclosing which OEMs you're working with currently?
I will not. Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to disclose those OEMs. We have a confidentiality agreement with them, which is
Understood.
pretty ironclad. But it's great. I mean, some of them were more local, some of them were regional, some of them were national. So, and because these guys, if you think about it, there's railheads all over the country. There's a handful of ports. There's, up and down the East Coast, there's 4 or 5. On the West Coast, there's 2. But there's more railheads around the country that, either from a manufacturing plant in the states or from the said ports to a central location, that, all these OEMs need help with. So, yeah.
And is there an area of the country that you're stronger in?
Well, we started East Coast. I mean, my brother and I, who are the two founders, we were born and raised right outside of DC, in Maryland, and so we kind of piloted here, and so we're very strong east of the Mississippi. We have a ton of dealers west of the Mississippi as well. We've grown exponentially, over the last couple of years, because, again, the OEM business, and dealers need help. Forget, just the new cars, the used cars. So we have a national carrier base everywhere around the country. It's continuing to grow. It grows daily, which is a great thing for us. But we move cars anywhere. We moved one to Alaska. The only place we haven't gone yet is Hawaii. We go into Canada. We can go into Canada. We're working on getting into Canada and stuff. But Alaska was interesting because it was literally planes, and it was literally a truck to a boat to a truck. So it was, a little bit of planes, trains, and automobiles, but it was fun. We've only moved one there, but it was interesting.
Yeah, the logistics behind that must be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, there's a lot in this ecosystem with the dealers and the auctions and everyone, and it's been done successfully, obviously, for since, we 50 plus, 60 plus years when the auctions really kicked off. But now it's becoming a little bit different. Technology has gotten involved, and we talk about AI and things like that, but technology has helped streamline this industry, and it's only going to continue to streamline it. And it's only going to be able to allow this ecosystem to be more efficient and work, you know, stronger, not harder, if that makes sense. Because, to me, everyone's working hard enough. The dealers don't have time to manage it. The transporters are out there, crushing it day to day, and the OEMs need help. So, we're just trying to put some tech behind it to make everyone more efficient and solve the pain points for everyone.
And we were talking about AI earlier. Are you guys dabbling into some of that? Do you see where, that could be beneficial to what you guys are doing, maybe from an efficiency standpoint? Have you
Yeah,
thought about that? And if so, like, where do you see that maybe potentially helping out?
I mean, we already have some currently built in our system right now for different for things with the BOLs, the bill of ladings. We see some help with efficiencies within the optimization tools that we have and that we're continuing to build and rely on. There's a lot of it out there right now. I think with what with what this industry needs is help to make everyone more efficient. There's some other pieces of things I can't talk about. We have patents pending right now until those things come out, but there's some more efficiencies around the way the transporters move and how they continue to be efficient with their side as well as the dealers and how they can have their cars move quicker and cheaper.
Is it so? AI typically is a keyword or phrase, sort of lookup engine, and then machine learning and all comes together and it recognizes the patterns that are coming up in that area. Is that how you all are utilizing it? It's more to
Yeah,
recognize patterns and
we have machine learning as well. I mean, we have a combination of things. Our tech team's really strong. We have a great data analytics guys, who can allow us to take the data that we currently have and really comb through it, for lack of a better word. And it's out of my. These guys are smarter than I am, so I defer to them on all accounts of this thing. But what they're doing is they're taking what we're collecting and what's out there and putting it in to make our software smarter, faster, stronger. And I think it's important. This industry, in any industry, you need to understand patterns. You need to understand common themes. And if you continue to do that, it makes it more efficient. Because again, the old days of phone calls, fax machines, if you can still believe it, still happen, but they need to go away because it needs to be where it's intuitive for both the dealer and the drivers.
yeah. How many faxes are still happening?
Well, you know what? It's on some people's website. You can still fax things in, and what I find, my mom used to have this old fax machine with the paper that would curl up, right? And it would fall off, and it was if you put your hand across it too hard, it'd leave a handprint on it. It was so. I still remember those days. I mean, I'm old enough to remember those days, but there are some people who still have faxes. Please fax in things here, which is to me shocking.
It is shocking.
Well,
It is shocking.
it's quite
But
secure now.
no,
Nobody's hacking that.
It's like
yeah, really.
it's like mail. Again, you get mail every day, right? I mean, people still mail things.
Not in this state.
I find it fascinating that people still mail things. But they do. It's I don't mind getting a card every once in a while, but I find it
Oh yeah,
shocking. Yeah.
it's still nice to get a piece of snail mail from someone. Not the bill collectors, but
But again, why does BG&E or why does Pepco or whoever's power company, why do they mail you a paper bill? I don't know.
I tell you, I
They
still
believe
opt
it's a
for
confirmed receipt that you received it.
yeah.
But we sign legal documents now via DocuSign, right? So it's confusing to me. So
I'm guilty. I still opt for the snail mail bill because I've just I've got the process down that once I get that in the mail, that goes into my pay a bill slot, and I make sure that that's cleared out, before they're due. And
Don't
I'm like, why do I do this? Why don't I just do all this,
don't move
receive
to
the bill
Vermont,
through
Jeff.
email?
yeah, if you're like my mom, my mom said to me the other day she was writing a check for some reason, and she was talking about writing a check at the grocery store. Now, I don't know who does that, but anyways, her
I
check
see that
number
from
is
time to time.
her check number is
Yeah,
her check number is like 17,000. I said to her, Mom, mine's like 6. I've written like 6 checks off my bank and I've had probably 25 years. And she's like, oh, it's 17,000 and something. I'm like, on purpose?
Wow. Yeah.
But she
Wow.
writes checks for everything. It's the age, right? I get it. But,
I don't write checks.
Okay.
I just get the bill. I get the bill via paper, but I use the online bill pay. And 9 times out of 10, I don't even use my bank online bill pay. I'll go straight to the website.
Yeah.
Which I don't have a lot of bills. I've got the house, the vehicle, and a loan. That's it. But
it's crazy because it goes back to efficiency. Like, we receive checks still sometimes, but when we talk to the CFO or the controllers and, hey, you guys can ACH us money and not have to send a check, and they're like, really? I'm like, oh yeah. They're like, okay, we're done. Thanks. Checks go away. And next thing you know, the check stacks went from 40 to 20 to 10, and we get a handful now, but it's all done electronic because it's just more efficient. It saves time.
Well, pre-pandemic, I would say that at our company, we were getting larger stacks of checks, and now dealers are more apt to put it on the credit card or ACH. The credit card's great. Like, you get an American Express as a business, the points just rack up.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, Josh. We have some dealers. Do you guys take credit cards? We're like, oh yeah. They're like, okay. They just give the credit card out. Next, like, I'm going to Hawaii this year because I've spent blah blah blah. It's all free. So yeah, they just rack the points up for sure.
Yeah, instant access to all the lounges and traveling, and it's a good little deal.
Very interesting.
I was just gonna say also, Jeff, watch out the on the mail side. I used to trust it, but they can't hire mail carriers in Vermont for some reason. So we get mail once or twice a week.
I know. I don't have that issue.
Half the time it's somebody else's mail.
Well, we get that daily. I mean, we get 4 pieces of mail that's our neighbors, and I'm like, did you guys even look? I mean, we get the building next door or whatever. I'm like, but again, I just nope. So
I don't know. I'm so anal about making sure everything's paid before or on time, and I've just got that process down. So
yeah, you got to set up the auto pay.
I still make the payment online, but
set up the auto pay.
Well, yeah, I do. You're messing with my head, Dan.
I'm a finance guy, so I'm all about the ease of use because I'm so used to having to do all those things from a dealership side where you're writing checks and you're like, then you have to cross-reference and balance. It became such a process. It's it trickled into my personal life. I'm like, if we can ACH anyone or we can do it via credit card, we're doing it that way because it just makes everything so easy. And it trickled into my personal life where it's the same thing. I'm like, I put everything on a credit card if I could. If I could pay everything on a credit card and have one bill, I would do it. But something you can't pay, right? They just won't take it.
Plus, get your points.
Yeah,
and you can always call the credit card company and say, I dispute this charge.
That's true too.
And
yes. So it's interesting for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Dan, you're the COO, correct?
Yes, I'm the COO.
So, I'm going to make an assumption here, but and this was something for me when I left the dealership world and went to the vendor side. We didn't have a COO at my dealer group. That was a new role for me when I came over. Do you mind? This is totally off subject, but
sure.
Do you mind sharing what a COO does?
So I handle everything that is not sales, basically, marketing, finance, operations. I don't handle tech. Obviously, I'm not the CTO. We have a CTO and we have a CRO, which is Dave, my brother. So he handles everything sales. Obviously, marketing kind of handles both operations and sales, but they come under my umbrella. I handle all the ops team, the inside and outside ops team. We have ops around the country and some around the world because we speak 7 languages. I handle all the finance, so our finance team answers to me as well. So I'm kind of making sure the day-to-day process of this company works. It continues to go forward. How do we streamline what we do to make ourselves more efficient so we can make our platform and our clients, both sides of that ecosystem, the transporters and the shippers, happy. So that's what I do on a day to day basis. I'm a firefighter, I guess, a little bit. I do a little bit of everything. Making sure that things are running smoothly within our company on a day to day business is probably the best way to put it. It's a new role for us. I mean, for me, my brother and I, we came from the automobile space as well, but some of us came from some bigger dealer groups who have these guys, but they make sure everything runs smoothly on a day to day. Where I know Jeff said earlier, the CEO, he's more 40,000 feet in the air, kind of looking farther down the road. I'm more of a day to day kind of guy.
Yeah. Not an important position at all.
I don't know. I mean, I make coffee too. I mean, I make a wonderful cup of coffee. So whatever needs, coming from a startup, we've been around. Our 4 year anniversary was a week ago, a little over a week ago. For our company was founded in 19. But coming from what we were 4 years ago, where it was my brother and I, to where we are now with 50 plus people,
That's awesome.
nothing's really changed. Like, I still do the same things. It's just I got a little bit more people, a little bit more responsibility. But again, you're wearing, as in any business, you wear multi hats a lot of the times. You're always doing different things. But it's been great, and I don't mind the day to day. I enjoy the day to day. I'm not the sales guy. I'm more the behind the scenes numbers guy. So Dave, my brother, can handle all the sales. I don't want any of that stuff about
And
me.
when
Yeah,
Steve
you got
Jobs stepped down at Apple, who replaced him? The
That's right.
COO.
I don't want the CEO job. Like, I'm good. Like, I like what we do, and my brother and I are, we have a good group of people around us, employees and team. We have great advisors. We have great board members. We're very lucky to the people who are part of our company are extremely supportive and great network of people. So it's amazing. So I feel lucky. But yeah,
are most of the employees located in the DC area,
it's
or I
interesting.
should say, at your DC office?
Actually, we have very few. As of right now, today, there's three of us.
Okay.
So, our controller is here every day because, of course, it's hands on. One of our tech people are in today, and he normally comes in every Friday because I think he just wants to get out of the house. And I'm here. Dave's visiting some stores today, but most of our people are remote. We've given them the work from home option because we can, and they seem happier and they're more productive. I mean, they're as productive, so it's great. We have people around the world too, for time zones and different languages as well, and it's worked really well.
That's good. You're hearing a lot of mixed messages around that. Every now and then you'll see a news article and it's like, no, people need to get back to work. You know, at at some point they're like, well, no, this is better. It's more efficient. People, and I personally have never been one to be able to work from home. I'll admit,
Same.
I gotta go to an office. I've got to have a time, or else my brain will wander,
Yep.
and
No, I get
and I'm
that.
not getting anything done. So I prefer to actually have some structure to go into the office. But you do see a lot of articles out there, people sharing, saying, it's almost 50-50 where it's good, it's not so good. People need to get back to the office.
I think
There's too
it
many.
depends really on the industry. Number one, I mean, we have people
Yeah,
who come in still. I mean, the people will come in on a random Tuesday or a Thursday, right? But what's interesting is we try to bring everyone together on a Wednesday. We love when everyone comes. We buy lunch on Wednesday, so we notice a lot of people coming in. I don't think it's for the food. I think it's because they want to come in. But if we have something important, we bring people in and have. If we need to whiteboard an idea or go through some stuff, I do believe it's better to have it in person, and our team is more than welcome to
mhm,
come in and do that stuff. So it's great.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's one
Where
thing
it
you don't
gets
have in the.
challenging, Jeff,
What's
is
that?
where this gets a little challenging is fairness. So a lot of companies have branched out and they have employees all over the country. And you can't bring in every employee every Wednesday, for example. Like at our company, our engineering team is uh, you know here in Vermont, but also we've got people in other parts of the country, and so they've created an efficient way of communicating
Hmm.
between their department. But
right.
whenever we bring in the Vermont crew, the ones who aren't here get a little jealous, and
Well, that's definitely an issue just on the vendor side of the automotives.
Correct.
of business because there's yeah, you're not no one's working remote if you're working for a car dealership. And it's funny,
Yeah,
I've had a few conversations where
if you
like,
can figure out
you
if
know,
you can figure out to
we
fix a car via Zoom, you'd be a billionaire.
well now yeah, obviously with service, but there's even for example, I know some people that have applied for different positions, maybe with dealer groups, maybe it's online marketing, and initially they're told, oh, you can work remote, and I'm having the conversation when it's like, no, don't fall for that. It's they may tell you that to sweeten the pot a little bit, but promise you that they will want you in the dealership. And maybe you've got one GM saying, "Oh no, you can work remote 2 or 3 days a week, because most of what you do can be done on the computer, marketing and such." And my advice to them is like, yeah, that's what that GM says. And then a year later, that GM no longer there. Now we've got a new GM, and he's a little bit more old school. He wants your ass at the dealership. He wants to see your face 5 days a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
it seemed to work for us. We got a good system in place. You said earlier, Alex, about the communication, how the departments communicate with each other internally, and then with department to department. We've got it down, and it's great. Our customers don't even know,
Mm-hmm.
either transporters or shippers. They have no idea that we're even out of the country or West Coast, East Coast. So
Yeah.
because of the way it works, and it just seems, we gave people the option. People felt like it was, they started at 50-50, and we just said, you know what? If you want to work from home, work from home. We don't care.
As long as people are getting their job done, who cares? I mean, that's. I mean, it's definitely nice to have that face to face, but you don't have to do that every day. So
No.
it's
I mean, I'm here every day.
again, it
I'm here
doesn't
every
work
day
well for
because
me, but I it does work very well for a lot of people. My wife can do it. I
I'm
can't.
like you, Jeff. I have to be in an office every day, and so does Dave's traditionally here. My brother's traditionally here every day as well. So we have. It's been fun. We've had some days where it's just been him and I. So we've gone old school brother on each other, and had you know had putting contests when things were required, or we'll order or just sit around and have stupid things on the TV that we probably shouldn't have, but it's fun. So
That's awesome.
I,
You have such a great relationship with your brother.
yeah,
I got to shake Dave's hand at NADA. It was and chat with him a little bit on the side. It was good. Seems like he's very like minded to where Jeff and I are with things. Good,
yeah.
our kind of people.
I mean, he's a career, 25 plus year retail guy, right out of college, right into the retail automobile space. He left the retail space to come here, his mind has never left there. Like he always is thinking like one of our clients, one of our customers. He's always trying to peel that onion back another layer to how do we solve for problems to them, because he lived it for so long, which is why we're here. But he's never out of it. Like he's always engaged with that and always talking to guys to make sure we're solving the problems, not that we think need to be solved, but what they're telling us need to be solved.
So, as you're speaking to dealerships, is there anything else that that you're seeing that maybe dealerships are currently struggling with, or
I mean, I think there's always a struggle with the dealerships. Again, you talked about turnover. So when you have different turnover, procedures come in place, it becomes hard. And understanding that moving from place to place, especially with what we do, moving cars. Right now, we're in a DOT blitz. The last 3 days have been a DOT blitz. A lot of trucks are not running on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday this week because we were told from New York City, from Long Island down to Maryland, to the DC area, was a DOT stop every 15 or 20 miles. And they're inspecting your truck from bumper to bumper for any violations. So what
what?
does that
Is that
do?
like a weight check in?
It's not weight, it's safety. They're going to look if your tire too one, is your one light out. It's a massive safety DOT compliance check. So there are
Why?
drivers for the last 3 days who have not driven. And what does that do to a dealer? That slows their cars coming that they've bought, right? Because if you take 10,000 dealers for easy math and 5,000 are driving, the cars still need to be moved. The same amount of cars, there's less people moving them. So we see the dealerships struggle with that. But what we try to do is communicate. When we talk about people switching, is we've been lucky enough that we haven't seen a lot of turnover in our dealerships, the deal groups that we deal with. And then what we have is, we've been able to go to new stores and pass this process on, because it's all about communication with your dealer, with your shippers. They're the ones who, I said new cars start the market. That's correct from the OEMs. Dealers are the ones who start the shipping process. They're the ones who buy, who need it shipped from the OEM, and they're the ones who buy from auctions and either sell to clients and need the trade to go one way or the other way. So if you can communicate with them and give them the information, and we told all our dealers, we sent out an email blast, hey guys, this is coming this week, so expect there's to be some slowness. There's also coming out of Florida right now, all the snowbirds, right? Everyone's coming south from Florida going north. So it's slow coming out of Florida. But if you communicate with these guys and you let them know up front, they understand the process. So, there's not a lot of challenge. What's struggling with the dealers is getting them to understand the not the technology, but how we can help them. Because some dealers want to do it they will still want to do it the old school way, and they think that saving, a nickel versus, if they're paying $100 and you're paying $110, is that $10 worth it? Where they don't realize the potential loss from time of selling cars to insurance compliance, all those different factors, back office efficiencies that we take off the plate to make them more efficient. So, but once you get them to understand it, we've our churn rate is so low because these guys totally get it.
You
What
know,
is the purpose of this DOT blitz? I just looked it up, and yeah, you're not using like
well,
buzzwords or anything here. This is what it's called, DOT week or DOT blitz. Something I'm
you just triggered something for me. I just went back and I was looking through all the Refresh Friday shows we've had this year, and I started thinking, man, 3 years ago, I wasn't thinking about government stuff in our business, and we were never talking about government stuff on Dealer Refresh.
no,
Never.
never.
Now it's been every week. I'm just rolling through
It's
the
true.
list, and it's like
Yeah.
everybody's bringing a whole new federal or state thing every show,
hmm
and it's like, why are these
Rules,
guys so deep in our
regulations.
daily lives now?
Well, I mean, some of it's justified. I mean, you don't want a
Yes.
transporter
Oh yeah.
driving 18 hours straight, right? So there's DOT hour restrictions on driving daily and weekly, et cetera, et cetera. Things like that, I totally get. The DOT blitz is a safety inspection. Is the truck up to safety? Living in Maryland, you have to have an emissions check, which is really for smog. But before you buy a new car, Maryland is one of the toughest Maryland state inspections in the
Oh, I
country.
know.
And
Yep.
Jeff, you're here, but it's
Yep.
not for is the car a good car? It has nothing to do with is the engine going to last 100,000 miles? Is it safe? Are the tires good to be? Does it have brakes? Are you buying a car that actually is safety qualified? It's the same thing for transporters. This DOT blitz is about safety. They want to make sure their trucks are up to snuff, that they meet the requirements that the DOT sets out.
Yeah, I'm getting the hell out of Maryland. I mean, this state is so regulated. I mean, we're like mini California sometimes. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're trying to open a business, if you're trying to support 2A, if we've got to have our vehicles with the emissions check every two
Mhm.
years.
Right?
It's almost like it's more just a money grab. And there's so many ways around the EPA testing. I shouldn't say ways to get out of it, but it just seems like it's a circus, complete
Again,
circus.
but certain states do the personal property tax where you're paying tax on your car every year, right?
That's
So,
West Virginia.
Just
you know,
south to you in Virginia.
right. I was gonna
Yep.
say, unfortunately, I think there's, yeah, there is some money grab involved, but I'm okay with the safety inspections because I don't want to,
Yeah, that makes sense. I
I
get
mean,
that.
I get that. I want to make sure that this car is a safe car to put someone in because,
Oh
again,
yeah.
you're not transporting a computer that you can replace. You're transporting a human. If you lose them, it's over.
hmm
You can't replace
Well,
them.
actually, I think don't you have to have an actual safety inspection done on vehicles every year in Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania, I think there's certain states that do not.
Most
Maryland.
most
Yeah.
states have a state inspection on vehicles now.
Yeah.
Maryland's just when you
Annual.
Correct.
buy the vehicle. but
It's when you
then you
buy
have an
the
admission
vehicle.
every
I
2
think
years.
PA is yearly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I think you have to
Virginia's
get that
been
sticker.
yearly. Vermont's yearly.
Is it?
Florida was one that didn't have it forever. That's kind of what brought AutoNation into light, because they guaranteed things that Floridians
Mm,
didn't get out of the state that way. But
I mean,
hmm.
we see the DOT again with the weight requirements, the driving requirements, and these are things that we educate our dealers on because a lot of them don't understand it. They didn't realize you can't drive 24 hours straight. You can only drive, 8, and you have to rest for 45 minutes, and you can maybe drive a couple more, but it's 70 hours a week. There's are things that or they just don't understand. But again, it's safety, and I get it. But the
Mm.
DOT is everywhere. I mean, this week has been somewhat of an interesting week for us in the logistics space because half of our drivers like we're off. We're just working on our car. We're working on our trucks because we're not going to go through this because
So
that
rather
work.
having to go through all the checkpoints, because it says here that it's almost like they do 15, they get it down to where they're doing 15 vehicle inspections per minute
Mm-hmm.
on average. So it's almost sounds like, it's just better to just stay home so you don't have to
Well,
go
I
through
think these
all
guys are just they're worried that someone's going to find, oh, your
something
left back
stupid.
something, and then they're going to have to, then that's going to shut them down for a week because can they get the
Yeah.
parts? Can they get in to get it fixed? It
Ugh.
becomes somewhat of a nightmare. So they just have walked away. But we're lucky. Our dealers have been very understanding. We just explain to them, look, we're doing everything we can to get it moved as fast as possible, and we're lucky to have great. Again, we've had great partners, and the new people we bring on, we just let them know, and they get it. They understand the other efficiencies. So
As long as I've been in the business, I was not aware of some DOT blitz or DOT week. And if I
DOT's
was, I
everywhere.
totally forgot all about it.
They're everywhere. So,
Yeah, I'm familiar with the DOT and the checkpoint stuff. I just didn't
oh
realize
yeah,
there was a 72-hour blitz. Takes me back to the Auto Trader sales blitz.
with the big tent and the monkey out front.
yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
That the
absolutely.
whole word blitz scares shit out of me.
Well, it's does have a great. I mean, you're thinking football or something else, but it's pretty. Yeah, it's interesting for sure. But the DOT they're out in force this week, so I think it's over today. I think yesterday was the
Yes.
end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, 72
yeah.
hours.
Not going to work through the weekend, eh?
It's interesting. To this morning, our phone was off the hook. Like it was blown up, and people, because and loads were flying off the boards. It was gone. So I realized this morning when I woke up and I went to bed with whatever X number, and there was half of that in the morning, and I was like. Before because they all got taken off the board overnight. I was shocked. I was like, "Okay, everyone's back to work. I guess we're gonna be okay." So it'll be fine.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, next week we will have more government conversation with Tom Klein
Yeah, we've
as
got Tom
we
back on.
dive into the other parts that are coming out in July. The FTC. My brain's dead.
Regulations.
There's like 3 different pieces of legislation that's coming up. The FTC standards, all sorts of things that affect advertising and data privacy and things of that nature. So
Yeah, I wonder how things went with Drew last week.
we'll have to find out.
Yeah.
One of
Give
our
us a shout out, Drew.
DealerRefresh community members was in DC trying to help
Oh,
some Congress people, at least their staff, understand how some of this legislation is going to affect small business and
yeah.
dealerships.
I think it's
Mhm.
interesting because again, I think this is the automobile business is such an interesting business. You have to have someone who's in it to understand it. I don't think they
Oh yeah.
really most people don't truly understand it, but it's not their fault. It's just so confusing. There's so much there.
Funny part is with the caliber of politicians we have, there are some dealers who make some excellent politicians now. So
Seriously.
maybe we
Maybe I
should
don't know.
be, yeah, should be running.
Good point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Well,
Dan,
everyone
it's
have a
always a
good
pleasure.
weekend. Yeah.
Yeah, you too, guys. I hope you guys have a good
Yeah.
weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful out. So
It's supposed to be, I think, this weekend and all next week. It looks like it's going to be nice here in our parts.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to go
So
hit the golf ball. I think sometime next week, some one night, sneak out with David around 5 o'clock and go play a quick twilight.
Nice.
awesome. You enjoy that.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again. Always good talking to you.
You got it. Take
Likewise.
care.
See you
See
guys.
ya.